Welcome to the Uncontested Investing Show, presented by REI Inc. magazine and sponsored by RCN Capital. Each week, we focus on bringing you candid convos from the best in the biz. Here's your host, Tim Herriage.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm your host, Tim Herriage. Thanks for coming back. Today, I've got my good friend, Al, with me. Al?
Tim.
Thank you for coming in, buddy.
Yeah, I love it.
So I love to just let you start off. Just tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
I could go through a whole thing, but I'll keep it really
A
concise.
little bit.
I'll keep it concise for you. From Miami, I played violin for 15 years, natural musician. When I was in music for that long, I wanted to know what was I going to do with my life, make money. And I knew music wasn't going to get me to that next level. So I really had to make a lot of decisions. Pick law school, of all things, right? Law school, not medicine or anything like that.
Music law.
Exactly. And I was going to take that and I was going to do some kind of entertainment law thing, right? And I had no idea where it was going to go. But law led me down a path to real estate, because when I got out of law school, passed the bar, took my first job, and it was with a real estate attorney, my first mentor. And at the time, we were doing foreclosure defense, getting into and dabbling in a little probate. We weren't as heavy as I am now, but we were really getting into a lot of that stuff. And I saw for the first time closings, title, foreclosures. And ever since 2 years after that, moved to Jacksonville, had a job up there, and that's when it really started my role into the whole probate real estate world. So I went from musician to lawyer, marketer, speaker, podcast host, and all the above, and it's been a wild adventure ever since.
Well, man, I mean, I've just been so impressed by your energy level. I've just never seen anyone that you bring it, and then you bring it more, and then you never stop bringing it. Do you sleep?
So that's what a lot of people ask, right? They're like, wait, when do you actually sleep? You're constantly working. We see you on Facebook and Instagram. We can't get you off our feeds. Yes, I sleep, and I make sure that's something that's really important, that you get that kind of rest, because you got to keep up that energy level.
Well, you are one of the guests that whenever I saw your name come across as a booking, I thought, I can't wait to hear this guy's bottom line up front. So every week I ask the guest to help me deliver what I call the bottom line up front. When I used to brief generals in the Marine Corps, it was always, we were taught never bury the lead. You got to get the most important thing conveyed in case the general has to get up or you get mortars coming in or whatever. So 2 minutes, take whatever it is you're thinking about and pour into the audience things that you're seeing or observing in today's market, things they should be thinking about, things they should be doing, things they shouldn't be doing. Are you with me?
I'm ready.
All right, bottom line up front.
Let's do
Go.
it. In a market that's really tough right now, where inventory is at an all-time low, it's so important to reevaluate strategies in real estate that you weren't thinking about before. Whether you were doing wholesaling before and now you get into land or short-term Airbnb, it's so important to evaluate the market that you're in right now. But what's really important is realizing the niches out there like probate that can provide an opportunity for you in the market, because probate's one of those niches that they're recession-proof, pandemic-proof. It is a constant niche. And when all-time low inventory is happening right now, you have to be able to look at other things and creative opportunities that exist out there. Maybe it's not buying the whole house. Maybe it's buying the partial interest. And maybe you are able to find a way to creatively get around that, because there's so much opportunity out there. There's deals everywhere, but it's a matter of how you make it and how you get creative that makes the difference in your game.
Well, of course, you don't leave that one flat. Alternative strategies. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about. So when did you said foreclosure defense, when was that?
That was in 2016.
Okay, 2016, and then you did a little probate. What was it about probate that, because we went from music to law school to entertainment law to foreclosure defense, and then you found probate and it stuck.
Right.
What was it about probate that just attracted you to it?
There was an opportunity in the market with real estate, right? So there's so many properties that are out there that are under people's names. And what I discovered was there were probate opportunities where somebody owned the property, but the heirs can't sell that property without a probate being done. So what I recognized is there was some issue where you can't sell it, so we had to find a solution to that situation. And that's where I found that opportunity. Thousands of properties out there, we're able to come in and find a way to solve it. And something about that solution, that overcoming issue to help heirs, to help the situation, to offload the real estate, something about that made me tick, and it was just, exploded from there.
You know, I had Kurt Carlton, the founder of New Western Acquisitions, on a couple weeks ago, and one of the interesting things that he said, and I'm going to get on a soapbox, right? You can knock me off in a minute.
All right.
Is we've got to find ways to get existing vacant inventory back into, let's call it productive living, right? And when you have one of these disputed properties or one of these, no, they don't know what to do with it, it only contributes to unaffordable housing, because you have these, I'll give you a great example. My investment company, we have this house in Garland, Texas right now we're trying to buy. Well, we will buy it, but we've already got a contract. But one heir owns half the house. The other heirs, no one knows where they are. And this house had a fire. So now it's sitting in a neighborhood. It's junky. It's unsafe. And it's one less housing unit for a family. So someone like us, we're coming in and we're able to put the house under contract. We know how to work with the city to calm them down, right? It needs to be mowed. It needs to be secured.
Right.
And we'll go in and do that before we even own it.
Right.
Right? Because we do take neighborhoods seriously. But then we know how to work with our probate attorneys. And actually, the title company I use here in Garland, the owner is a probate attorney.
Oh, there you go.
Well, yeah, it's I'd say half the houses we buy are people that need help, need guidance. And I just want to, the reason I'm saying all this is kudos to you for finding something that you enjoyed. But then what people have to understand is you're not taking advantage of people. You're not ambulance chasing. You're actually solving problems, and you're solving problems for normal people, but you're also, I'm going to give you even more credit than you probably even knew that I was going to, you're solving problems with the housing market. Because the more of these houses that are in America that are vacant, the more that small to medium-sized investors can work hard to get those things back into productive living. That's one of the ways we address the inventory issues we face, and that's one of the ways we address affordable housing.
Right. And what's one of the most important things in any community? Every city wants to build up their community and make it look like a beautiful neighborhood. Well, how can you do that when you have these homes that are just sitting dilapidated, the roof's caving in, code violations, nuisance liens, and they're like eyesores in that community. So what I think of us as is community revitalizers, right? We're revitalizing the community and sprucing it up, and we're making it look good. We're making communities out on the west side of Jacksonville that had a probate situation, the heirs are able to sell the property, the investor comes in, they're doing their rehab, now it looks like a beautiful house, and instead of beautiful, beautiful, ugly, you have beautiful, 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 and it's an amazing neighborhood. Right. And the city of Jacksonville and the other cities that I'm sure you've seen it all around Texas and Florida, it helps. So we are problem solvers. We're trying to find that creative solution. And it's very interesting. You're helping heirs that would not have been able to sell that property, would never have been able to get paid anything. And you're coming in to say, hey, let me help you. Let me take over this. We'll let you go on your way and we'll help you.
Absolutely. So creative solutions, problem solving, helping people, making money. We're going to talk about that all when we come back.
Sounds great.
Stick around. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for fast funding for your next fix and flip? What about leverage for your next long-term rental or vacation rental? Need capital for a new construction project? Look no further. RCN Capital has you covered. As the leading nationwide lender for real estate investors, RCN Capital offers short-term and long-term financing solutions for your next investment property. RCN Capital takes a common-sense approach to your loan request, offering high leverages and low rates backed by superior customer service. Whether you're investing in single-family properties or multifamily properties across the U.S., RCN Capital has funding options for you with no hoops to jump through and quick closings in as little as 2 weeks. Ready to get a quote for your next investment property? Visit rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today. There is no fee to apply. Again, that's rcncapital.com/podcast to apply today.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Tim Herriage here. I'm still here with Al Nicoletti. Al, let's get creative. What are some creative solutions to work with a piece of property that's in probate?
Oh, I can go on so many stories, and I think the best way to do it is through stories. So I've had so many investors come to me and find creative, crazy deals that come up that nobody's going to be able to solve. And one of those deals that came up that has multiple themes in it was a driving for dollars scenario. An investor came across it. They go from house to work, and they see that property, and they find out what happened. Somebody died. So the first thing the investor's doing, well, after they knew me, who I was, they said, Al, what do we do next? And I said, hey, you got to try to find the death certificate. Where's the death certificate? Because death certificates are a great source of information. They may lead you to the next person because somebody filled it out that's alive. So they got the death certificate. They looked at it. They couldn't find anybody there they were able to get in contact with. So the next thing they did was they did investigating. They did skip tracing. A lot of the things investors do when they can't find people. They skip trace, they did this, they did that, couldn't find anybody. Al, where do we go next? I said, the next thing you want to do is go get a genealogist. And they were like, a genie what? And I was like, a genealogist. And they're like, what is that? And it's somebody that actually does a whole skip trace of the whole family tree. And they're going to find somebody. And if there's nobody, that's pretty crazy. But usually there's somebody. So they did a whole skip trace and they found nobody for this person. But the next thing you know is that the genealogist then goes back and says, wait a second, you have to now go down the predeceased spouse's line. So they went down that line and they found 5 nieces and nephews alive, and they had contact info for each of them. So here's the thing, Tim. You have a house that's never been sought after. Nobody's gone after it. Now an investor has the contact info for all the heirs, and he starts reaching out to them. And he says, hey, did you know you're a potential heir to this property? Love to help you solve this. And it's crazy because in the beginning, they had no idea they were inheriting. Right. We all know where this story goes, right? They had no idea they were inheriting it. Then it became, how high can your price go? And so the situation was, it was 2 against 3. So after he heard the whole story of, it had nothing to do with the house, but it had everything to do with the furniture and things that were done 20 years ago, became 2 against 3. So you need everybody on board for your deals. You want everybody on board because that makes it what? Uncontested, smooth transaction, right? But in this case, you had 3 against 2. So then we had to go to plan B, next level. That's where the creative side to all of this comes. And it became, can you buy out the 3 interests? So you as the investor, Tim, you're holding the 3 interests and the other 2 heirs are holding the other 2 interests, and you can do some kind of partition for sale, find a way to help move that property along. Well, then it became the price was too low. They all didn't want to sell. And so what happens is you get these scenarios where you really have to creatively and critically think through these, because there could be an opportunity even if a roadblock starts coming up. Crazy stuff. Also, you have other situations where there may be a missing heir. So we had this one case a year ago where everybody was on board except there was one missing heir in another foreign country, and they were facing a tax deed situation in 1 week. The investor wanted to know and said, hey, can we buy this property? I said, well, you may be able to buy a portion of the property and, maybe force a sale. And they're like, yeah, I don't know if we really want to do that. We want 100%. So when I heard that, I thought, wait a second, there's got to be a way for 100%. And when I reevaluated it, I found out there was a way to go around this one heir to get the property sold. Even when it was a week away, they were still going to get their money on time. And we found a way where we were able to get all these heirs under a contract, got the property sold. That one heir, wherever they are, they got their money in the court registry, and that property 100% owned to the investor.
So I love that, because as an investor, oftentimes the really good deals where you make a lot of money are the hairy ones that no one else can figure out.
Correct.
And that one, were you able to do that because like you had a super majority? Did you have to get a judge to sign off on that? Is that too long of a conversation for today?
It's funny you say that because when somebody comes to me with that, I'm like, we got to sit down and talk for
right,
30 minutes.
right.
But in short, there was a legal way because it was what we called a non-homestead, it was like a rental property.
Right.
And because of that, when we have that in Florida, it changes the dynamic of what would be needed and who needs to sign at the closing. See, Tim, what I tell people is, when you get into deals, you need to think about the end in mind. What's the end? And the end is the close. It's not about, hey, I got them under contract, let's just walk away and celebrate. Close the deal. So it's not about getting deals, it's called closing deals, right? So what I wanted to see is, can we close the deal? So it took a team effort. Not just the creativity on my end to solve it, but work with the title company. Hey, title company, if we do this, can we close? Will your title insurance underwriter approve what we're about to do? And the answer was yes. So work through the puzzle, and the equity matter too. I mean, something like that, it's not just an everyday probate, that's expensive. So there's gotta be equity in that deal. There's gotta be a spread in that deal, and there was. But what we loved about that the most was that we could take a scenario like that, an experience like that a year ago, and some of these probate scenarios come up again and again and again, and we're able to say, well, remember this case? We're able to do it here. Well, we couldn't do that. Maybe we can do it now. And I love hypotheticals, Tim. I love when you come to me and say, Al, I think I got a deal. I think I got this deal. And I'm like, yeah, the margins are too tight. And you're like, yeah, they're too tight. We'll find another one. But I take that scenario and I plug and play into other scenarios. And that's a lesson to everybody out there, is learn from past experiences that didn't work out, because you can use those same hypotheticals to things that come up later.
And I just love the team approach. And I've always said, you have to have a team, right? This entire business, you just can't do it alone.
Right.
And if you'll ever listen to me talk, I always talk about your network. Talk about how important it is for an investor to have someone like you on their team.
Oh, it's critically important. I mean, especially when it comes to the legal side, the closing side, even the investor side, even JVing with investors, because you want to work with professionals and investors that see this niche day in and day out, right? So I have a saying, I do a lot of presentations. I have a saying, when it comes to lawyers, they're dabblers or they're doers. Right? So if you dabble in it, it's like all these other lawyers that do divorce, bankruptcy, all these other things are crazy out there, right? And they say, oh yeah, we do that. We'll give it to somebody in the back. No, the doers are the ones that run the gamut. They do it every day. They do hundreds of these, either a year or, I mean, every couple of years. I mean, Tim, I've done 300 in the last 3 years. So I'm not just dabbling, I'm doing. Right. And so when investors and professionals work with that, you get into the niche. So even if it's somebody in land trust, if they do land trust all the time, every day, those professionals see so many scenarios. So it helps. And like, take it with investors. Investors that do an Airbnb, a land deal, a multifamily, they're well versed in seeing these things that can help them. But let's just say, Tim, you're interested in land, only land, and all of a sudden you got a crazy deal. Well, you want to go to that investor that's doing land all the time to find out, are there environmental issues, zoning issues? Am I going to run into anything later with builds? So working with professionals that narrow their niche, that helps blow up your business exponentially, because it makes you better too.
Yeah, and I liked in your story earlier, you said once you thought you had found a way, you called title for them to check with their legal team and make sure that they're going to sign off on it too as an underwriter, which I think it's important that everybody accept that they're never going to truly be the master of the universe. And you're going to have to be willing to ask people, talk to people, and trust but verify.
Oh, right. Absolutely. And that happens with like the quiet titles too. I mean, how many times you've seen a deal where legal description's wrong, or there's a deed just totally just randomly floating out there, and you want to know, hey, we want to buy this property, but you know, if we do all this with the lawyer, are we going to close the deal? You're not worried about, hey, this is the coolest quiet title we've ever seen. No, you want to be, let's close with, you know, confetti and everything. And so it's those steps in mind that take a while. That's called really being in it. That's called seeing it day in and day out and asking questions. I think one thing a lot of investors could do more, especially in the deals, is ask more questions when it comes to title. And you're probably thinking, well, what questions do we ask? It's just the act of critically thinking through a puzzle, right? So that's really what probate is, and a lot of these creative title things, it's a puzzle. And even if you don't know the right questions, ask something, and it's going to lead you down the next path.
Are there any red flags or common mistakes that you see when dealing with probate customers?
I think what happens, and something I've seen lately, something I definitely wanted to talk about when it comes to getting all the information. I think you really want to know if this can be done. You want to see what's happening, talk to people, communicate more. The communication side to our business is a lot more people oriented than we think. All these courses and things that we talk about with contracts and deals and lease to own, all of these, that's great. But the thing is, the one course that we don't talk about is the talking. And talking to people, you don't know what's going on. You don't know how long they've been holding on to this property. You don't know if they have a family member that's just been around and just crazy. And it's really finding out the pain points, finding out what they want, what they're looking for. And it takes a level of, you got to get through that to get to the next level. And the communication's key.
And you also don't know if they've already had a bad experience with a probate attorney that said he was a probate attorney, but he was a dabbler, not a doer.
There you go.
And literally this one gentleman, I got to tell you the story because I'm living it right now. He has this attorney to review his contract. And, changes, happy to glad, small dog to puppy, special warranty deed to general warranty deed to special warranty deed. And then does this entire special provisions addendum disclaiming that he only owns 50% and it's our job to find the heirs and yada, 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 yada. And I just remember chuckling when I read it all because I'm thinking, this guy probably spent more time on this addendum than he ever did actually trying to find the people,
Yeah, right.
So I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back to the money minute and then some rapid fire. And I have a feeling I'm going to want this thing to continue, but we just can't.
Love it.
We'll be right back.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-best.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm your host, Tim Herriage, still here with Al Nicoletti. Al, my favorite part of this show is the Money Minute. Imagine there's an investor out there that will only get 60 seconds worth of advice this month. It could be the young you, it could be an entrepreneur, it could be an investor that's struggling, however, whatever you want to just pour into. You've got 60 seconds. You've got to impact their business and their life. Are you ready?
Ready.
Go.
Your time is valuable. Whether it's in your business or real estate or doing your deals, your time is valuable. And the one thing that you should be taking advantage of is building yourself out checklists with sellers. And why is that important? Well, let's just say you're getting heavily into a niche, whether it's land, multifamily, probate, whatever it is, you want to be the expert and the master of the craft when it comes to dealing with sellers. And you will know when a seller is serious when they get you the documents you need for title, for the attorney, whoever it is you're working with. And when they don't get you the documents that you need to be able to think, wait a second, is this a time waster or is this worth my time? Because other parties are working together with you on this, and you want to be able to scale your business. And how can you scale your business when there's people that are not getting you what you need? So you really got to use your time and make it valuable and get these checklists together so you know exactly what you need in your business.
Wow. I love checklists. And I love checklists mainly because the part about being an investor I don't like the most is so much of my word depends on other people's performance. And I don't like that, right? I'm not saying I'm going to pick up the bucket and bring you the bucket. I'm saying sign this piece of paper, and as long as someone fills the bucket and finds the bucket and brings the bucket halfway, then I'll go pick it up, right? So I think it's important not to waste time because, talk about this, attorneys aren't free. At what stage should people get involved with a probate attorney? You think, should they get educated by them for? I don't know if you do education stuff. I mean, I'm trying to position this. When do people call you?
You're looking for the red flags, the issue spotting, right? And that's what I tell a lot of people in presentations. You don't have to know all about this. You don't have to read the books or look things up online. You have to be able to issue spot with this stuff. So when we talk about probate, you're looking for things like heirs and who owns the property, understanding how deeds work, understanding what title is. A lot of people still don't understand the concept of pulling title before you really dive in your deal. So probate comes up a couple times, whether it's coming up through the title work or it's coming up through what the sellers are telling you. And when you hear key language like mom owned it, dad owned it, well, do they own it now or are they deceased? And that's what happens with issue spotting. And being able to work with that attorney, like we were talking about with checklists, is so important. Our time's valuable, and other people we work with, like the title company. And the thing that I'm just seeing so much of is the sellers, they want to have a meeting. They want to talk to you for 30 minutes to an hour. But then when it comes down to it, the investors are like, well, can we get moving with the probate? And Tim, you know what my answer is? We can't until we have everything.
Right.
And we know now when they're serious. So developing a system where you get everything up front so you know the seriousness level of the sellers is so important.
Communication. Number one tip for people on communication when dealing with home sellers or potential heirs.
Talking to them. I mean, I just really trying to listening to them, actively listening. A lot of times they want to be the ones to tell you what's going on, and it's hard, right? You and I, we're busy professionals. We got the next thing to work on. Next thing, you have to be able to.
I love listening. Talk about now. Is this ambulance chasing?
No, it's not, because what you're doing is you're helping these people get something that they would not have been able to get, but for the help.
Because do dead people need houses?
I mean, they owned the houses at one point.
I mean, in New Orleans, they put bodies in houses. But, like, I mean, the rest of the country, once someone passes away, they don't live there, right?
No.
So I have no problem marketing to the probate list. I have no problem working on a probate deal because, for me, I'm solving an issue. I'm helping them out. Because oftentimes they say dad owned, but then they also say need to, have to, must. And some of these things, these people are dealing with a problem, and I'll even go a step farther. Most recently, the CEO of a company, and I won't say who, that I know through the industry, called me. His father passed away, and they were having the same argument. That people with a $50,000 house and a $5 million house, brothers and sisters act the same, or nieces and nephews when they know there's money involved.
Oh, yeah.
And they always say, well, we ought to this and we ought to that. And all we ought to means is I think you should so I can get paid. Al, What type of music were you into?
Classical.
Classical?
Yeah, so we played classical 15 years. I mean, we were doing things from like Tchaikovsky and Dvorak and like the Nutcracker kind of stuff. But what I, eventually wanted to do, which was, when you go to music school, there's always a school of thought and like what they want to do. And they were doing classical. I really wanted to do like blues and jazz. I wanted to do all that stuff. And really in music, we could have done anything, but we were really into classical. It was fascinating.
Tell me about, and quickly, what makes a bad client for you?
One that doesn't respond when we're trying to email them or call them, or another one that doesn't listen to the advice that we tell them, and one that doesn't seem to want to grasp what we're trying to achieve. And I think that's the whole goal, right? This is going both ways. This is not a one-way street, right? There's a goal that we're trying to achieve and we have to figure it out together. And when we don't have the cooperation or participation, it's hard to work with the client.
And so, I mean, other than the opposite of what you just said, what makes a good client?
Oh, all the above of participation, a want to be proactive, right? I love working with people that are proactive in what they do. They're thinking through critically, how do we do this? Where do we go? Or a client that wants to send the documents right away, responds to the emails. That's a big thing in our industry, Tim, is being responsive, getting back to people. And I've seen that. That's a lot of what has made my business just grow and scale, has been responsiveness, efficiency, and you can have all of that, but the one thing you have to do is execute, and I love that.
I think you didn't just describe a good customer for you. You actually just described a good investor. The ones that are successful listen, follow guidance, lean on experience, and at the end of the day, execute.
Right. So
foreclosure defense is something you said you had dabbled in a little bit after law school, and it's funny that you were foreclosure defense and now probate. It seems like you like to help people.
Yes, I do. And I love that aspect of it. Like, you really get to see they're happy. They are so happy. A lot of these people, Tim, they're very confused and frustrated when they come to me. They don't know what's going on. They've never been through it. You have to realize so many of these families, this is the first time they've ever gone through something like this. So when somebody's there that's able to help them, they feel so much more relaxed. They're trusting, and you just really want to help get them the next stuff.
It is so emotional, and I've had so many people just cry on the couch, right? Because especially once you figure out you can help them.
Right.
You mentioned driving for dollars. I wrote it down. You got any tips or tricks for those that are kind of looking for a way to drive for dollars or maybe find some inventory?
So I don't get into the driving for dollars category. However, there are definitely leads out there that are just great even right now with tax auctions, foreclosure auctions, tax delinquencies. If you're in Florida, I don't know how Texas is or any other state, but when you find states that are public records friendly and you can find anything, public records are amazing. I had one person tell me they're from North Carolina and they find a lot of crazy, wacky deals. And they said they found something in Florida and they were going through the records and they called me and said, Al, your public record system down in Florida is amazing. And I said, yeah, I know. And I hung up and I thought, wow, we really have no idea what we have in our state about records being out there. So you have no idea. You can cross-reference death certificates with properties. You can look up tax delinquencies. There's just so many opportunities for distressed properties.
I'm biased, but I believe Texas and Florida are, some pretty great states.
Yes.
So we're almost out of time. I want to just give you a little bit of time. Parting thoughts, parting shots.
I think anybody that's really trying to get into more investing, that's finding a hard time just doing the buying with multifamily and it's a lot of this low inventory stuff, don't shy away from getting into these other crazy creative title things. You may find it actually interesting. You may find it fun. There's a lot to it, and you may find there's something that you want to work on that you weren't going to do before, but now you love doing it and you can become the expert in that.
So Al, if someone's listening, and do you only practice in Florida?
I'm only in Florida.
Do you offer any consulting or training or any of that?
The one thing that's been interesting lately is I've been slowly making really good connections with other attorneys in other states, not necessarily just probate, but finding really good ones, because I get people that'll say, hey, do you practice in another state? I'm like, no. And they're like, we need to find an Al in our state. But I've been building out this network slowly of somebody in Colorado, in Georgia, in South Carolina, in California. So slowly the network's building.
All right. So if you're listening, if someone's listening, how do they get in touch with you?
Okay, so you sure you want me to go through this whole thing, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so one of the best ways you can find me is online, Facebook under Al Nicoletti, my YouTube channel under Al Nicoletti, Instagram @Attorney Nicoletti. I can be found on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play. And you can find me on my website, www.alnicoletti.com, and the phone number, 904-999-0053.
Well, Al, first, sincerely thank you for coming in. I know it takes a lot to fly in, a busy man like yourself. I've enjoyed getting to know you. I just love your energy. I wish my kids acted that way. We live in a great country, and there's a lot of things that people can be upset about, but at the end of the day, life is good. We get anything out of our effort that we put into it, and you're just an impressive man. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for stopping by. You've been listening to the Uncontested Investing Show. I'm Tim Herriage. Remember, your network is your net worth, and today you've been growing both. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Uncontested Investing Show. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time. The preceding program is furnished by RCN Capital LLC. The information provided is for general education purposes only and does not constitute any legal, financial, investment, or other professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed of any speaker are the speaker's own opinion and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of RCN Capital LLC. No information contained in this episode should be construed as financial, investment, or legal advice from RCN or any individual, author, host, or guest. You should always consult a financial advisor before investing.